We are live. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. And just to give you a quick idea of what we're about to do, I work in a company that builds software for other companies, full stack developers. And because of my role, I get to meet lots of very interesting CEOs, top performers. And on this particular podcast, what we try and do is we try and tease out the tools, the habits, the things that have led up to our guests' success. And I am so excited today because I have Eitan with me, and Eitan is a serial entrepreneur. He's started a few companies, and I'm just very excited to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you very much, Jason. I'm happy to be here
Yeah.
and that somebody wants to listen to me.
I feel that you've started a lot of companies, and that means that you have a lot of hard earned advice to give other people who are starting out on their journey. And you probably have a lot of hard earned advice for people who are trying to become top performers. And that's what our podcast is about. So I want to dive right in here with my first question. Can you take us back to when you started your first company, which was called Sell to Back, I believe, which was
To
acquired in
bet, B,
Amax?
it's sell to bet, BET.
Sell
Be
to
like Benjamin. Yeah.
So
Well, sell to bet. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
take me back to those days. How did you come up with this idea, and how did you take this idea that was essentially on like a napkin, and you took it from that, you did your research, you built a team, and you actually made a product that people were willing to buy? How did you do that? Tell me about that process.
Okay. When we started sell to bet, the idea was that we wanted to develop the first wallet to the cell phones. And we are speaking about, when I started to speak about it was this year 2000. Okay. I mean, it was 7 years before I done the company. I started to speak about it. And the idea was that because the cell phone companies was very successful, everybody was to talk on the phone and to have a phone. We're speaking about very old phones in the beginning of the cellular period. And the idea was that cell phone companies, started to look to the future. And one of the future to look at it was to sell content. They say we will sell content, and then people will buy content, and we will earn money on that. And it was really, really premature. What happened is that I started to work on it in 2000. What's happened in 2000? Uh, Two major things happened in my life. There was the first crash of the stock exchange of the internet, and all the high tech companies crushed. All the .com was on the face. Companies started to shut down. All the valuation of companies that just started crashed down. So all the market went down.
When was this?
And 2000,
Mhm.
2001, you know, uh, we have to remember the boom in Israel started because of ICQ. I don't know if the majority of the people today don't know what is ICQ today, but there is a guy named Yossi Vardi. He invested in his son and his four friend. They developed it was for computer, of course, no cell phones then. They developed a tool called ICQ that you can see your friends on the internet. You can send them messages, and then you can talk with them. It was the first messenger online and they've been bought from AOL for $405 million.
Wow.
This was the first major exit in Israel. I mean, in that way, that there were four guys, 26 years old, sold the company to AOL, and this done the boom of the high tech in Israel. I'm speaking about 98, 97, something like that, if I remember correctly the dates. And then what's happened? This is where the boom of the startup and the funding started in Israel. I mean, as a high tech kids that done an IPO exit, and then it started to run the industry. So I started, and I was working with few startup companies in that area. We were doing optical router and optical switches, and we done another company that doing monitoring of the traffic of the internet. And I went and helped them. And this is my start in the high tech industry. I went to help them, and like a good Jewish people guy, I started to go into investors, and I it took me almost a year, but I raised to these guys almost $20 million
Wow.
funding.
For your
Uh,
e-wallet.
no, not it's not my view. It was the other company.
Ah,
One of the companies I was working was in the cell phone industry, and this is how I started to learn about the cell phone industry. And when I look at it, I said, okay, if the market wants to sell, I read articles about how the market wants to sell content, and I said, okay, if they want to sell content, how people going to pay on content? Because we're speaking about time that the SMSs was the leading app. People were texting and paying a lot of money on texting. You were paying half a shekel for one text. It was
wow.
a ton of money. People were paying 3,000 and 4,000 shekels a month on talking on the phone. Huge amounts, like we paying today 30 shekels for a month, and you're getting 80 giga and can call out of the country, and we're speaking about 3,000 shekels a month on cell phone payments. And they were talking about content. And I said, okay, how going people with a phone that is, we're not speaking about smartphones, speaking
Yeah.
about very dumb phones that you can text, and that's it. And I said, how can people will get content on that? There is no screen, it's not a television. So the only, and that time the premium SMS was the top of the thing. So you can get ringtones that you can download ringtones to your phone, and wow, on this you will pay 10 shekels or something like that. And I said, okay, but if people want to do content, we will have to the phone will have to change. We have to think, one of the things that happened in that period, the phone started to be smaller and smaller, because this became a hype. From a big Motorola phone to have a small StarTech, phone, or Nokia that everybody liked to hold and talk with them. This was the holy grail. And I started to speak with the people, and I said, okay, but if you want content, how you can give content with these phones? They are stupid phones. There is no screen. You're getting text. It's nice to get a text with music, but okay, that's it. So phone will have to grow and give you the ability to look at them and add, to argue with people on that. I said, you don't understand what you're saying. Phone won't be big, phone will be small. I said, okay, but how with the small StarTech, you're going to look at the view and look at what on TV? It's not going to happen. And I said, okay, we have to solve it. But it was 2000, and it was like premature by far. And unfortunately, what's happened from 2000 and 2006, I lost all my family. All my mother, my father, and my sister, all of them passed away from cancer, one after another, in 6 years.
Wow.
So I had to hold all my businesses. I had to stop my company that I wanted to start. And in 2006, when unfortunately my last person was my sister, I came back to my partner Amir, and I said, Amir, let's do something. And people asked me, what you done in these 6 years? I told them I done 3 exits. All my family passed away. So
Yeah.
this is the way to laugh on it, So it's,
I
no,
can't imagine the pain.
I tell people, no, of course.
Yeah.
But I tell people death sometimes it's not the worst thing that a person can have. Sometimes death is a release from pain, and to suffer from cancer, it's not easy. My sister was 39. She was very young. I'm older than her today, so it's funny. So, but I came back to my partner Amir and said, Amir, now I'm back to business. Let's move forward. And we started to look, because 6 years in high tech, it's old world. We look at the market. We saw that what we wanted to do in 2000 it didn't change. said, okay, let's create the company. So we fashioned the decks, our decks, we work on our presentation, we worked on our Excels, and we started to look to investors. And in the beginning of 2007, we founded a VC fund called 21 Ventures. And we went to them, they were American VC that wanted to come to Israel. And we went to them with our idea. A process of half a year was with them. And they invested us a seed round of $4.5 million in the company. And we started to work. It was a long negotiation, but successful ones. And we started to work on the company. And the idea was that we will do a wallet that can create ability to pay on content on cell phones. Again, we speak in 2007, and the cell phone iPhone started in 2008, the launch. It was pre-iPhone.
Wow.
And yeah, and when Steve Jobs, the genius, started with his iPhone, we look at it and said, what the guys, we saw the screen and said, okay, it's nice, but apps, what is apps? How are you going to pay with apps? We'll say, okay, so we will stay on our premium SMS ability to charge people. And what's happened is that the cell phone companies stroke us back, and the cell phone industry the cellular company were very, very arrogant. They behave to startup companies like, sorry about my language, they like shit, The sales cycle used to take 2.5 years down the line, and then when you come to them, they want to take 80%, 90% of your revenue. Really, 80% of your revenue. You have to build an amazing business model. The funny thing happened.
Reliance on the cell phone companies.
Yes, exactly. And what's the funny thing is when we started to understand what Steve Jobs done, the amazing thing he done, it's like a Trojan horse. He gave them the Holy Grail. He said, take the iPhone that everybody wants to have an iPhone. They took it. They didn't even understand what they done. It's like a Trojan horse, because when you started to work at it and you have apps, you don't need the cellular services anymore.
Yeah.
You need them as an internet supplier. That's it. You don't need them anymore. But from the other side, they wanted to have customers that use the cell phones and the iPhone, and everybody will give you iPhone, but when they give the iPhone, you don't need the services anymore for them. So it's a Trojan horse. It's amazing what they've done. They shot themselves in the leg. And from us, it was very good. But what happened is that it took us so long to do the sales cycle. We decided to pivot the company, and we started to say, okay, let's sell specific service that we can sell it, and then it will be easier for us to go and sell the service. So we decided, we looked around, what service we can do a lot of money, and we decided to go on lottery. Because the idea was that we can sell a lottery ticket through even an SMS, and we can be the electronic boot. We don't need a license because we give our service to the lottery company. They have the license to sell. We connect them to the back office of the cell phone company. The cell phone company will do the charging, and we will take the fee of the boot from the lottery and split it with the cell phone company. This was the idea. It took us almost 18 months until we done this pivot. We spent almost $2.5–3 million on the server technology that we put in there. I think it was $2.5 million until up to date. And what happened is that 2008 was a huge crash in the high-tech industry, huge, the second one.
Wow.
Okay, and to us, it's happened in 2009. Okay, because we had money in the bank. And the funny thing, I was in New York, when they shut out Lehman Brothers. I was waiting for a friend to go to lunch with him when they closed the bank. And I was calling him, boss, where are you? I'm waiting for you. And he said, Eitan, they closed Lehman Brothers. And who will be in front of the Lehman Brothers bank? It's like a massive building in New York. I said, boss, stop your nonsense. I have other meetings. Let's go to lunch. And then he said, no, Eitan, they're closing the bank. And I was looking and see people going outside with boxes, and I never saw American Fire before. I didn't even understand that. And he said, listen, I'm not coming back. They're closing the bank, and I have my customers here. I have to take care of them. And I went out, and they closed the bank, and it was the big, the big crush there. And we didn't felt it until the year after, when our investors were supposed to give us the money. They said, guys, no money. It said, what? They call us, American way. They call us 2 months before of the money transfer, and they said, guys, we are not sending you the money. And I said, what? It was 3:00 in the morning. He called me, woke up from sleep. And he said, David, listen, we need the money. I have 25 workers. I have to pay them. He said, no money. Close the company. Close the company. And I said, I'm not closing the company. I have 2 months. Don't let me close the company. He said, close the company. And I started to have a big fight with him at 3:00 in the morning. I said, David, listen, I'm Israeli. I'm not American. F you. F you. Don't interrupt me. I don't have this kind of money, but let me work. Let me try to bring other money. But at least, give me the ability to try. If I want to have the money, I will have to shut up anyway. And he was saying, no. I said, you know what? Don't interrupt me anymore. I have to go and work now. And we were running like crazy for 2 months, and the market were in a very bad situation, very bad situation. And we were speaking with the investor, and everybody became like very close and not spending money. And the funny thing is, one of the investors we spoke with in the past is, I won't say his name because he's very, very big and rich. And I called him and I said, and where are you? We tried to reach him a couple of times and he didn't. After 2 months, I had to close the company. So I fired the people and I felt like shit. And it's not because of me, it's because of the investor. And 1 hour after I fired the people, I getting a phone call to my partner office, and he's shouting me from the office, Eitan, come, and he's on the phone. I said, okay. And I'm coming back and grabbing the phone and said, hey, Ann, how are you? Where are you? They said, I was on a vacation in Australia. What do you want from me? What's happening with you? I said, listen, we just fired all the people 1 hour ago. And he said, okay, this is not good. You know what? Come to my office on Monday. I said, okay, come to my office. It's Los Angeles. It's not Israel. So I said, okay. The day after, I was on the plane.
Wow.
Flying to Los Angeles. My partner joined me on Sunday. And we sat with him for 4 days, working on Excels, working on the stuff. He was with us. And he gave us a loan of $1 million back then. I said, okay, let's start. The company won't be shut down. But we have to close with your other partner, the investor, that we have to do transfer of shares and everything. This process took us almost 8 months again until to close it. And what he done to the company became on hold because we couldn't work on the projects we have and everything. But let's say, long story short, the company is still working today.
Yeah.
10 years after, with over 23 or $4 million until today invested in the company, and this is the big story.
And can you
how we work, and the company is today.
Can you imagine if
it's a roller coaster? I never thought.
Yeah, when you got that phone call at 3 a.m, if you hadn't said, I'm going to try and fight for this company, give me 2 months. I don't want to hear from you. I have 2 months. it wouldn't be here today, and all those people wouldn't have jobs.
Of course, of course. And the other investor, one of his is Jewish, so one of his, and he's one of the founders of a company called small company called Qualcomm.
Qualcomm.
If you know, Qualcomm is a small company today. It's over $100 billion
Wow.
company. It's one of the biggest in the world. Chip company is a chip company bigger than Intel today, I think. And interesting story by itself. And he's one of the founders of this company. So the biggest shareholder until today in this company. So I flew up to him, and he put over until today almost $20 million because he said it's Israel. We're not firing people. We're working. We're struggling, and we will prevail in the end. And I said, just on this, I will give you a hug. It's an amazing sentence to say. And the company is today profitable, selling in dozens of millions of dollars in the States. We pivot the company since then. Today, the company is doing augmented reality and virtual reality games that we sell to lotteries, especially in the States. And we give them the ability to be connected to their customers and to do monetization on them, because you can't allow to sell lottery on the internet or online in the States or through apps. You're not allowed to do that. And I left the company 6 years ago. I'm still a board member, and we brought American CEO, and I left the company and still on the board until today. During that time when I wanted to leave and to start another company in the fintech industry, and what's happened is that during that process, a guy approached me and asked me for my help, and he had a very intrigued idea for a startup company. Her name was Irontera.
Irontera.
And he wanted, yeah, it's in the smart card. The idea was that we can find parking place in real time through the camera of the phone that will be put on the front of the car. When you put your phone holder, and in real time the camera can find you parking. And the idea was that if you're passing the road and you see a parking, you can set it to somebody behind you that there is a free parking in here, and then you can build a road of parking places, because it's very hard to park today in main metropolitan cities. Parking is
Like Tel
very
Aviv.
not
I know.
available. It's very, yes, yeah. So I worked with him. I was not the biggest shareholder in the company because I had my other company that I wanted to run, and I helped him to build the concept, to build the business model. We went and brought investors. Few of the biggest car companies in Israel invested in that. So on a go, we raised it in there $3.5 million. And after a year and a half, I was a board member and helping him with the business, but I decided that I don't want to stay in this position, and I left the board of the company. And then I went to work on my other idea. It's a company that I'm working on it. It's called Lancelot. What's happened with Lancelot is we stayed on hold because we and my wife decided that we want another kid, another child, and my wife she had a very hard pregnancy, so I have to stay with her because of really hard pregnancy. And when our child born, our first baby girl, so I decided that I'm staying at home with her for 2 years. And when she get to year two, she was until 2 years she was with me at home. My wife went to work. She's a teacher, and we put her in the kindergarten. Then I went back and said, now I'm starting my new company now, and this is Lancelot. This is what I'm doing now. So, by the way, I had another company in the fintech industry. It's a long story, so I won't tell all of it, but it's a startup. It's called Change Your Change, and I won't go in all of it, but one of the things that happened in Change Your Change is that the idea was I went to a company, I won't say names, but I went to somebody that is very big in the Israeli high tech, and I show him my company, and I wanted to take one of the solution, one of his companies that he's doing, and and what's happened is that the guy stole the patents for me,
Mm.
and gave it to a company that was doing something similar to my idea, and they didn't do it, and they stole it. But the the only smart thing they didn't do, they didn't steal the business model, and this is why they didn't succeed in the end. And sometimes it's, if you steal, at least know what you're stealing. You know, a good look of a machine, it's not the only thing that's important in a company.
What did you learn
So
from that
I decided,
experience? What did you learn from that
you
experience
know what I did?
that
I
doesn't
learned
happen again?
it's a problematic. I don't know if you listen to go to every meeting and sign an NDA. It's a no-no. You know,
Mm.
it's you can't do anything about it. And it was very frustrated to go over this process. If you will tell me what to do again, listen, if I was richer enough back then, I would sue them. But suing is not, it's not everything. And I try to see, but in my belief in the high tech, you can't be close all the time. You have to go and talk to
Mm.
people. So it's one of the risks you have to take.
Uh,
Unfortunately, this
yeah.
guy wasn't this honest enough, at least to tell me, listen, I'm investing in a competition company. Before you talk, think what you, if you want to expose it, you know. So I take it to myself, and by the way, they closed their company. I'm still can do my company. It's still a great idea, but I won't do it now. I have enough on my plate. Maybe in the future, but this is the idea. Don't afraid. Even if somebody will steal from you in the end, you can't do anything about it. You know, it's better to go and talk to people and get the majority of them are okay and decent. The
So
majority of the people in the high tech industry are decent.
I love
You
that.
know, they will share with you their knowledge.
Mm. As
You
you are,
know,
and I'm really appreciative of the knowledge that you're bringing over here. And what I find fascinating about your story is opportunities just seem to come to you. Like, how did you find these opportunities? You would sometimes take a break, when you had those tragedies and you were mourning your family, or after your wife after those 2 years. So, but you seem to be able to find these opportunities. How is that? How are you just meeting people? Like, how did these come to your mind?
I'll tell you why. I finished when I went to high school. Okay, my Daniel, my teacher was tell me in the 10th grade in high school. She told me, go and bring your parents and come back to school. And she's waiting for me until then in school. I didn't came back. Okay, and one of the things I learned, because I have a dyslexia, I'm dyslexia. I have
Mm.
dyslexia and ADHD. It's a very problematic for me to sit a long time on my ass, you know. But when I've been intrigued on something and I have a very good memory when I read about stuff, it's a lot of them are staying in my mind, you know. So I'm very knowledgeable. I read a lot about things that interesting me. I can't read about things that don't interesting
Mm.
me. And I read a lot about the high tech industry, a lot of reading and talking to people conventions and with friends from the industry that and I know a lot of people, and we're talking, and slowly, I gather in my head ideas that I have. I remember when I was just starting the high tech industry, and I didn't even know how to call myself entrepreneur. I didn't think I am an entrepreneur. I was helping companies to raise money and stuff like that. And I had a couple of friends. I sat with them in their office. I speaking about the year 1999. Okay, and I sitting with them in their office, and they have like on the wall you can write with a chalk. And I said, listen, I want to show you something. This is something I have in my mind. Okay, 1999. Okay, look at this. This is a satellite. I'm setting it like a moron. I'm setting and picturing him a satellite, And he said, and I'm painting them a person, with two legs like matches. And he is holding his phone and showing them the house. Somebody is calling them from the computer. You know,
From the
you would
sun.
call it Skype. Yeah, through the satellite. I said, today you can call it. In my eyes, it was like the first Skype. I showed them Skype, and they talked to me and said, "Eitan, what are you talking about? It's a nonsense. Forget it. Forget it." I said, but you can do it from computer to computer or through satellite. But people will be in the other part of the world. You can call through the internet. And they looked at me and said, "You're crazy. Forget it. It's not going to work. It's not going to work." The funny thing is, when I came to them after 2 years, when Skype started, a couple of years after, I said, and they didn't remember this. They didn't remember this. So, in my eyes, you have to go with your dreams. If you have something and you think you understand it from other people, it's good to get the noise. But entrepreneur can't get a no from because somebody say you're stupid or something like that.
I love that.
Because everybody thinks you're stupid. You know, Everybody think you're stupid in the end. What you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know. Big phones, not going to work. It's not going to work. People want small phone. And this is the concept I have. It's harder to me, and the other part is I'm not a coder, so it's harder to me to go and accomplish my ideas. If I was a coder, you go and sign write code, and that's it. Every time I'm doing my own startup, I have to bring people with me, to code for me, to help me in the stuff I'm less competent, or I need help on that, and it's good to get help, but in the end, as a leader, as a CEO, as an entrepreneur, you have to have the ability to get people around you that they will believe in your dream. And it's
Mm,
hard. It's not easy. You know,
yeah.
it's easier when you have a lot of money. When you don't have a lot of money, it's much harder.
It's
You know,
almost like you have to be a master of persuasion to, because you have this idea, and to them, Skype seems crazy. This is mad. And something that came to mind is someone out there that may be listening to this. How is it that if you have an idea, what is the best way to put that idea into fruition? What is the best way to find the right team to do the market research? You've had to do that a few times.
listen, research is it's a must. I think for every entrepreneur, you have to learn and to understand your market. You have to understand the need of the market. What is the size of the market? By the way, it's a process that helps you to understand better your market. Your competition. It's very good knowledge about your solution, because when you look at sometimes at your competition, you see their defaults, where they are wrong, where they are not correct, and or where did they fail, and how not to do the same mistakes. Okay,
Yeah.
so research is very important to understand. And I tell people, it's my opinion. I have people that don't agree with me, but I said to people, let people build excels and how the company is going to work. It will help them to understand their needs. Even if the excel is wrong, it will give you the guideline of what you want to do, you know and it will give you the way to understand how many people you need, what is your budget, how much you're going to price your product, when are you going to do the profit and loss, when you're going to be break even. Even if it's wrong, it will give you the guideline for the new entrepreneurs. Do it. Even Yossi Vardi, that was the biggest guru in Israel for startups, he used to say, business plans are like science fiction books.
Business plans are
Okay.
like science fiction books.
Yeah. And he's right, but in a way, it's right, but it's give you the guideline of you. How many people you need? How many people? How much is their salaries? How much you're going to pay them? How many months you have? When you think you're going to sell? Even if you're going to be wrong, at least you put your head on that and you have some idea where you're going to. It's very, very important to entrepreneurs. Very important that it will help them to understand their life and where you know, I need $2 million. Why? Okay. Why? I'm doing now a new company called Warp UV. Okay. And we're doing now, I think, the biggest seeds round in Israel until today ever.
Wow.
Okay. $25 million seed round. Okay. I don't know if I will succeed or not. It's very challenging. But when you're sitting with investors, you have to show them why you need 25, from where it came, you know, why you need the 20, where's the logic for what you're looking for? So for us, it's easy to show it because there is logic behind it, okay? If the investor won't understand that, it's a big problem. It's a big no-no. But if you have a sense, you have to look at the big picture because this is how you have to look at on the market. And if you want to get a big market that will help the world today to reopen because of the coronavirus, you have to work with somebody like us, like our company. And it have to make a lot of sense. But it's easy to show it. You need X amount of workers, and we need 100 in the first year. You need to manufacture a machine, so you need to build it. So you need the teams that are going to build it. We need the people that are going to build it on the field, you know, on the companies, on the places you're going to put the infrastructure there. So it's a lot of teams that are going to work on that. So when you're showing that you need 100 people company, you can't raise $1 million, you know,
Right.
just for salaries. And Warp UV is that company. Warp UV is a company that we are doing disinfection for airports, for luggages, and for personal belongings. And it's very important for airports to work with our solution. Why? Because we know how to do it quick. And this is the most important thing. And we do it with UV light. And speed is a need. You have to work very fast in airport. Airports that have 60, 70, 80 million people, 80 million people a year that passing the airport, it's almost 500,000 people a day, you know. And if the solution that they have today are doing it in 5 minutes, I'm not speaking about 30 minutes, it's a no-no. Because for them, it's doing the theory of line are crushing because they have to work fast and quick because this amount of people have to run to the plane, and we know how to do it in less than 30 seconds. And this is not changing their needs. So they are approaching us today, and the machine is not working yet, but they are approaching us today that we will work with them to see how we can put it in their airports today. And it's a big company that we are building now. Huge. I mean, I never work on a big company.
What I find so magical about your approach is that you're able to identify a need in the market. You're like saying, okay, 80 million people go through airports. Time is the most critical thing. What can we do to solve that problem? We need things to be disinfected. We need things to be run as smoothly. So you're not only identifying problems in certain sectors in the market, you're also understanding what their biggest pain point is.
It's an interesting story how we started this company. Really interesting story. I have a partner named Gil. Okay,
Gil.
he's the genius. I'm Forrest Gump. He's the genius. And we were because when the corona started, there was a quarantine, the first quarantine in Israel when it started, and me and him was every evening. We have dogs, so we were doing walks every evening, and I was on a verge of closing a funding to my other company, Lancelot. We were on the last sheets of the agreement to close the deal. Last timing, that's it. And we're closing a deal of $3 million that we can start running with my company. And when the corona started, there were investors from London, and they had the quarantine there and disappeared. Disappeared. That's it. And I was very frustrated. After a process of 4 months negotiation and everything, even more, even 5. And I was walking in the evening with my neighbor that we know from kindergarten. Our kids are together in the kindergarten, and he had his own startup in the cannabis industry, and he had to fire all his workers because he was closing his first deals and it's all stopped. And we were like two guys walking in the evening and whining to each other, how shit is my situation and how shit is his situation. And and we said like two Polish women, we are whining to each other, and we're speaking about the corona and what is this coronavirus that everybody's talking about, and now we were quarantined, so at home, so we are starting to read about it, me and him, and we were talking about it, and then I one evening I said, Gil, I think one of the biggest industries that's going to be damaged from the coronavirus is the clothing industry.
The closing
and
industry.
He said, yeah, clothing industry. And he said, why? I said, because think about it. They're speaking about the spreading of you speaking and you spitting and all these things, not things that coming from your body, and you go into a store and you going to Primark, you're going to and they're going to Primark, and then somebody's took the shirt off and his spit is on here, and now you touch it and you get the coronavirus.
Yeah.
So I don't want to touch this shirt anymore. And he said, you know what? It's interesting, Eitan. Let me check it. And he said, you know what? We can do it with UV light. Okay. I said, okay, great. It's day after day. We're talking every day, every evening. We are walking and talking. And he said, you know what? But and I said, you know what, Gil? But and he said, we can build a machine. We can sell it to stores. They can disinfect. It will take them 30 minutes. They can disinfect the shirt. And I said, okay, great. And then the day after, I came back to him and said, it's a problem. It's a problem. He said, why? I said, think about Primark. You have thousands of people every minute in the store, and you give them 5 minutes. It's not going to happen. We have to solve this quickly. And he said, you know what? Let me go and check it every day. It took him a couple of days. He read articles about it, and he came back to me and said, you know what, Eitan? I know how to solve it in 30 seconds. And I said, okay, great, amazing, let's go. And I started to go and talk to friends, people I know. I said, okay, let's start to speak with people. And people said to me, close? You have to remember the first quarantine in Israel, people didn't suffer enough back then, and it's people saying, close? Who will do it on close? Close, it's nothing, forget it. It's stupid. Don't do it. I said, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm stupid, let me. But like I learned, I just said okay to them, and I called a friend of mine in London. Okay? I said, Daniel, I want to talk to you about something. And he said, what? He said, what's happening with your startup? He said, well, you don't understand. He's in the tourism industry. His startup was in the tourism industry.
Yeah.
We were supposed to launch the day that they done the quarantine in London, and they shut down the airport. He said, what? He said, yeah. What's your problem, Eitan? Well, let's talk, And I talked to him about the idea. He said, no. And I said, what? He said, I want to talk to something and I come back to you. After a half hour, he's calling me back. He said, "You don't understand." I said, "Okay." He said, "Listen, I spoke with the company I work in Mexico. Okay, they are working in airports." I said, "Airports? What want to do with airports?" He said, "Listen, listen. I told them about your idea because we spoke before about a few stuff because of the corona and everything. And I said, okay. And he said, listen, can your solution clean or disinfect any surface that it touches?" I said, "Of course, it's not a problem. We can clean every surface." I said, "Can you do a luggage?" I said, "Of course, it's not a problem." He said, "Listen, I told them about your solution, and you are the only one in the world today that's speaking about speed. And if you can disinfect the luggage in less than 30 seconds, they want you tomorrow in there." And he said, oh, and then I said, okay, let us, and then we pivot. We started to study the aviation industry,
Mm.
and the aviation is one of the biggest markets in the world today that's suffering because of the corona. They
Yeah.
are stuck. They lost. I mean, the aviation industry lost until today probably $9 trillion until today, from the beginning of the corona. Okay, and you have to understand it's damage that unbelievable, and they're looking for all the time for solution to open the sky. And the pandemic is killing them, and they don't have one solution to solve it. And even with if the vaccine will come, they won't take the chance anymore to not to disinfect anymore anything that come into their country.
Right. It falls
So
on the airports that all of that responsibility of making sure this disease doesn't spread falls on these airports. And already the profit margins are so slim when it comes to
of
flying.
course,
And to add Corona onto it, I can't believe the number is that high, but I mean, it makes so much sense. 9 trillion, it's ridiculous.
Lufthansa is losing 500 million euro, I think, a week. I
Jeez.
think maybe it's a month or a week. I'm not sure, but still, this big number, and this is a huge number, And they are laying off dozens of thousands of people at home. That's 30 or 40,000 people. Air America the same. Delta, everybody. Qantas, I heard they are firing something like 40,000 people. It's a huge amount of money that the airways, aviation, and airports are losing. And we are now in a place that we've been approached, and our system is not working yet, but we've been approached by huge airports around the world because they heard about us through, I don't know how, in our part of the case, and we are talking to them. And they are talking to us, and they are willing to go the process of pilot with them, and after that to pay us, that we can give them the ability to disinfect luggages. Okay, and by the way, we didn't raise money yet. We have already 14 workers in the company
Wow.
that join us to the dream. One of them is a professor from Tel Aviv University. And she is a virologist that help us to understand all the viruses and everything. And we're doing a test with her. And it's a dream that, and we brought another, me and Gil, my genius partner, we brought another friend. His name is Amir. That he will be the CEO of the company, because I can't be the CEO. I'm working on Lancelot too, and I'm just doing the biz dev, and I'm opening all the doors now for the airport companies. And the funny thing is that we brought him, and when he studied, Amir studied in England, in university in England. And when he was in the University of England, he was working in El Al in the luggage section of the security luggage section. And he told me, Eitan, I never in my mind would, if you told me that my work in El Al, in the airport in Heathrow, working on the luggages will help me today in my work today. But this is the way you see sometimes karma coming to you from ways you didn't even thought about it. And so everything you do in life is a good study. Even if you think it's nothing, learn from it, and even if you're going to do mistakes, and we do mistakes all the time, you know,
It
it's
it's
okay.
it seems to be, well, I mean, there's a couple of things I want to say to that. It's one of the ways to be an entrepreneur from your story seems to be the ability to really enter someone else's shoes and understand their pain points and then understand what their biggest need is, and then not only to understand where the problem is in the market and how to solve it, not just whine about it like a Polish, two Polish women, but also
Yeah,
then to be able to
yeah,
find the right people who need the solution. Like you seem to be someone that has an immense memory and immense ability to connect with many different people around the world, so that you have this kind of like walking network with you.
yes. In a way, I don't want to brag about it, but I'm a man people. I like people.
Mm,
I like to connect to people, to study from people, of course. But the networking is very very important, in life.
yeah,
Not every person you meet in life is important, but sometimes you don't know from where it's come. I can tell you stories that people I met somewhere, and suddenly I met them in somewhere else, and then suddenly became important that you knew them. But try to be nice to everybody. It's very important. You don't know from where it's going to come.
that was really smart of you, because this already started this entire idea of yours to pivot from clothes to airport started with a phone call to a friend from London. You're like, I'm just gonna see who in my network
Yeah,
knows more about this idea. And from that, you were able to get that last piece. And then from there came that CEO who also has
yeah.
history working with baggage. It's amazing. All of this happened, this pivot from a phone call.
You know what? And one of the people told me clothes is nothing. 2 months ago, I came back to him when they opened back Primark in London, and I said, I want you to see something. And I showed him an article that Primark opened, and they said, listen, every shirt or somebody wear and did it bought in Primark are going to 3 days disinfection.
Wow.
And I said, you see what I'm talking to you? I'm right or wrong, but now we're going to airports, but this is our secondary market, and we now approach for third market. I said in one of the airports that we spoke with, and they said, listen, we don't want just to disinfect the luggages, okay? We want you to give us a solution for the duty free on the back, that when people are buying items in the duty free, we want you, when before they take their items, that it will be disinfected.
Hmm. That's brilliant. So
I said, wow.
another
I
market.
said, I said, wow, it's exactly where we started, you know. So it's amazing. So we are coming back to the same place. So the vertical is getting bigger and bigger. But airports now, it's still the biggest clients that you're going to have,
Yeah,
because it's huge
you are
implementation.
successfully projecting the changes. It's kind of like after 9/11, the game of flying changed forever, and there was no that you could just walk up to the plane anymore. The world all of a sudden
Exactly.
became less like there was a sense of blissfulness where you could just fly and everything was safe, and things are changing.
And amazing you said that, because it's exactly how we look at stuff. Because we look at it as like 9/11 with the fusion bomb.
Yeah,
Because this pandemic, maybe we're going to have a vaccine or maybe not, but after this pandemic, another pandemic will come, and
yeah,
we have to give this here to stay forever. The way people were going to walk in airports is going to change. It's like exactly like 9/11. Before 9/11, you didn't have to go to do X-ray. You didn't have to go and take your belt and your shoes and everything and be scanned with machines that you don't have bombs. And it was 19 years ago. 3,000 people died, and $2.5 trillion damage, or 2.7 trillion damage. Today, the coronavirus, over 1 million people died.
yeah,
The damages to the world over 26 or 27 trillion dollars today.
yeah,
Up to then, it probably will go more. So it's here to stay. And the way people would travel in the future in airports, will be through one of the solutions that will be, it will be through our solution that will disinfect the germs from the luggages and will give them the ability to take the germs with them out of the country, you know. And if it's even, you know what, it's even if it's a regular flu, and you didn't disinfect somebody that going to have a regular flu and go home and be sick, not dead, but sick for 2 weeks, we're helping the pandemic world to help people. And this
You
is a
know,
big opportunity.
it's so crazy that the world could be destabilized by this much. I'm 28 and I never thought I would see the world in this much chaos. I don't remember the dot-com boom. We discussed like the recession and even like 9/11. Like I remember it, but I was still a kid. And it's so crazy that industries have been ruined. And you would think that like the world is so stable, and the pandemic showed just how not in control we are and how vulnerable we are still as humans.
Yeah, we are. And it's get. I tell you, one of the things that the pandemic is hitting the world so big, it's because of the open sky. All over the world, people are flying much more than 10 years ago. 10 years ago, didn't we have, I think, less people that flying. The open sky, the flying companies that doing EasyJet and companies like that, that selling you flying cheap, open the sky. And today, when people are running with pandemics, it's running much faster around the world because they are moving much faster around the world. So it didn't happen before. It wasn't like that because usually who was flying? Businessmen, less than less tourism was, but the
You
people
know,
that came from Wuhan to the States very quickly, to Europe very quickly.
and it was so
In the
scary.
past, when the SARS was,
Yeah. And it was so
yeah, go ahead,
scary how
please.
quickly it all happened. And, you know, I kind of had a question in the back of my mind to ask you about all of that because, you're someone that has had to deal with a lot of extreme amount of change and a lot of extreme amount of pain in your life. You've, you know, I bet you've had
Mhm.
many nights where you've like laid awake being like, oh shit, what do I do next? And I
Of
guess
course.
what comes to mind is when you're in that state of like I don't know what I'm going to do next and I have this impending doom, this fear. And I think a lot of people have that today with corona and like not knowing where their next salary check is coming from. What did you do, or what do you do in those times in order to get back to your groove?
I tell you what. I tell you what. First of all, not every person is an entrepreneur. Let's start with that. To be a Meshuggah like me, to be entrepreneur, is to be half crazy. Okay? It's I think yeah, listen, let's be honest, to be entrepreneur is a very hard life. When people ask me what you do, I say, unfortunately, I'm entrepreneur. Because I know that I have idea, I can't leave it, and I'm going to have a lot of pain and a lot of struggling until today. It's a roller coaster. Still today, with all of my experience, you still have to suffer and struggle a lot because the theories you built are changing from the reality, and you have to move yourself and navigate and stuff. So, and I still have nights without sleeping. I wake up in the middle of the night with ideas and thoughts. And I thought about something, and suddenly in the middle of the night, I wake up and said, "No, I'm wrong. I have to go this way and not that way." And when you have partners, you have to speak with them, and sometimes you don't see in the same eyes, and you have to negotiate between yourselves, and you fight between yourselves, and then you have to come back, and it's like marriage. It's like marriage in the end with partners in startups. And yes, you have nights without sleep. I think that the best way to do it, and I see it now in my start in work, we brought the best people around us, smart people that we talk to them and you consult with them, and they know how to give you the right answers. And sometimes they don't have answers, and you have to go with your gut feeling, and maybe you will be mistaken. It's okay, because people do mistakes all the time. And if you do mistake and you see it, at least fix quickly and move to the other strategy that you have. You know, this is the only way to tell people that they won't have problems. They will have problems from the day they open the startup until the day they will sell the company. After that, they can retire. Until that day, they will have problems all the time. I can't say to somebody, you look for an easy life. There is no easy life with it, to be entrepreneur.
Right.
Not even single day. Okay, if it's with money and money to the workers, and how to stay the workers, and how to leave them, and people leave in the company because they get their salary, and you can't compete with the bigger company with their salaries. It's every day with its own problems that you have to solve. It's really complicated. I don't want to glorify it. There is satisfying days. Sometimes when you fell asleep and you don't remember, it's a good day because you don't remember the problems. It's but the other days, it's problems all the time, all the time. How are we going to do it? What are we going to do? And how are we going to grow the company? And there is sales, and there is problem with the development of technology, and it's not working the same. And every industry with its own problems, and how you're going to solve them. Today it's even more challenging because if you want to go and implement, how you move the stuff around the world, how you're going to fly the teams that are going to implement the stuff, how you're going to raise the team. You know, we need 30, 40 people that are going to go and implement our systems around the world. How you find them, how you going to raise it quickly, how you going to do that. Just example from the new company. From the old one, we had tons of problems all the time. So it's very important. It's try to speak with smarter people, or with people with experience. If you have partner, talk to them. The idea of sometimes sharing is taking the burden a bit less from your chest. You know, as a CEO, it's never end. As a partner that doing other stuff, sometimes it's easier. To be the CEO, it's a bit harder because the responsibility is on you. You
I
know. Uh,
mm, I love what you're
Go
saying.
ahead.
I've heard that if you are the smartest person in the room, then that's a problem.
Big problem, especially me, Forrest Gump. It won't happen, so it's okay.
I love that you mentioned earlier, and a lot of people have like learning disabilities, and um, these are such limiting beliefs that people have that like they can't succeed, and then you're just there as a pioneer showing that like whatever it is that you may think that you have, you can overcome that, and you can overcome those challenges in order to find your success. um, what I wanted to ask you is, do you have any like routines to get you performing at like your 100%? Like all of these challenges and problems are coming in at you all the time. Like you're basically like in the fighter pilot seat, and like things are coming at you all the time. Do you have, like, when you get into like one of like a rut, do you have routines to help you perform at your max?
Well, in my age today, our problem is not just to do the companies, to work with the family too.
Mm.
It's not just you have to take care of the family too. It's so you have to find a routine. So the morning routine is to put the kids and come back and start working. The problem I think today in our world is the background noises that moving you from work to Facebook, to other stuff, to
Mm.
read, or to talk to somebody. This is the interruption that are more problematic today, if I can say it right. And
100%.
it's hard. It's a self-work. It's a self-work that you have to work on yourself. And sometimes, you find yourself suddenly a half hour on Facebook and doing other stuff, and then you have to take the time that you given and make it more effective. You know, so it's not sometimes it's not the amount of hours that you do; it's the efficient work that you give in a small period of time. Burst of work that sometimes in one day I can do work for 2 weeks, and sometimes it takes me a bit more. It's a self work on yourself. It's a discipline that you have to do with yourself. There is no magic trick on that.
It's so validating,
Nada.
yeah, that even someone of your experience has that problem of like just getting lost in Facebook feeds for like 30 minutes. Like, can I just vent about that? That like there are companies that have budgets of billions of dollars that their sole purpose is to get you to uh, become addicted to the subconscious dopamine hits that you get when you like scroll on the
Yeah.
screen and you find something new coming up. Like, we have to be like really conscious of this and like very like have compassion on ourselves, because there are very, very smart people trying to work out how to keep us on these apps. Because going back to what you said in the market, it used to be that the model was pay for your content, and today the model is you are the product. And companies are trying, and that's the problem now with apps today. It's such a competitive market because everybody's spending millions and millions of dollars trying to keep their individual user on that particular platform for as long as possible, because that's how the
Yeah.
that's the ad model that's happening right now. And it's just
Yeah.
very validating to hear like a CEO say, hey, like I also struggle with that.
Yeah. Of course. Listen, it's a world today that runs very quickly.
Yep.
I look at my kids. They are so different in their behavior, in what they're doing. In our generation, we're still sitting and watch TV. My kids didn't watch TV, I think, for the last 2 years, at least 2 years. They're on their computers, they're on their phones, they're getting the content in there. Their behavior is different. They speak with their friends through the phone and through their games that they work with them. And this Corona is not helping them to see each other. So, but they have their own. I couldn't stay 2 weeks at home. I will get mad. I will get mad if I would stay 2 weeks at home without going out from home. I will get mad in my head. I have to go outside, breathe, walk in the beach, walk to sit with people, drink coffee. They can sit for 2 weeks not going out of the house. It's not bothering them.
Yeah.
It was playing, doing school. So for me, it's much harder to sit so long on the computer as to them. So for me, to work with my phone for half hour and then working for a couple of hours, it's okay. And sometimes you need the rest your head to go somewhere else. So it's okay. In an old world, you leave the computer and go to the coffee place and speak with some people, drinking coffee and talking to them and going back to work. So behavior are changing. We can't ignore that the behavior of people is changing, and people will have to find ways how to block it. In my eyes, by the way, I'm using, for example, Facebook. I read a lot of articles, a lot of information I get from to there. So I used to read a lot of books. I don't do that anymore,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I used to read 3-4 books a week. I don't do that anymore, because I read in short text, and in this short text, I'm getting a lot of information, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, and it's helping me sometimes in my work, And by the way, to connect and communicate with the expert people especially in LinkedIn, in the professional people that read my thoughts, or I read their thoughts and their minds and what they do. So I learn from that too. So not every escape for the phone, for the cell phone is bad, you know. Just don't do it for 8 hours. It's much better,
I think you said
you
something
know.
That's like a very valuable point. And I know for myself that I now work from home in this, like, software development company, and I don't have hours. And so, like, it's so important to, I've said to myself, like, I got to get up, I got to go and take a walk. Otherwise, like, I can get up in the morning and it's light outside, and I don't, and then it's dark, and I don't leave my hole. I don't leave this, like, world that I'm in. And it's so important to have that work life balance. As you said, like, you took off time in your life also when you had kids. Like, people don't realize, but the world is changing so fast. We don't even have time to, like, read books anymore. That's how fast the world is
Yeah,
changing.
yeah,
um
exactly. And it's by the way, I think in the end, you know, I give you some example of the change of behavior in the last 15, 20 years. Okay. I used to go with my laptop everywhere, trying to find hotspot, connect, and look at emails all the time. Since look at all of us with our behavior, since we have cell phones sophisticated as we have today, you don't have to go anymore to the laptop to write emails. You do it today from your phone, and you're getting all the emails on your phone. So you are a bit more far from your laptop, you know.
mm,
But for me, a laptop today is to go and to do the when I have to write very long and I have to think about the email, I will sit on my laptop and do that. On the phone, quick mails and stuff, and that's it's even changed because sometimes you connect today with people on WhatsApp and it's much quicker than email, and you send them the materials through the WhatsApp, not even through email anymore. So this is behavior that change, and WhatsApp is a big change of that, of your business behavior, not just on your regular behavior on the office. And it's hard because people are getting pings every second on their WhatsApp, and they want to look at it, even if they're working, and somebody is sending them a WhatsApp for a friend, and they want to answer them, not even content, just friends that's calling them and asking, you want to go for beer in the evening and stuff. But every ping like that in a group, people want to see. They can't stop themselves. It's a very hard work for them. The interference that they're getting all the time in their heads are very high today, very high.
mm.
So it's a behavior.
I,
Sometimes maybe it's a
I
working. So
like, the world is so connected today, and I worry about that for my future children and the future generations. That um there's never a time that we can be alone. Like, it's like, you ask someone, do you check your phone while you're on the toilet or before the toilet? Because there's no other way. Like, our phones are actually an extension of us. They're part of us. Like, like, I would never leave this house without my phone. And I think that
of course,
behavioral change is so dangerous. And although the world is so connected and there's so many possibilities out there, I do consciously think to myself now, like, wait a second, like, how much Facebook time have I actually had? Like, how much other am I using this to consume good content? Am I learning from this? Is this adding value to my life? Or am I just now getting to that point where I'm just wasting time? And I have that, and I have to, like, stop myself.
you have to understand. First of all, you started we are just in the beginning of the cell phones. You will open the light in your house. You will open the door in your house with your phone. You will do stuff. You don't do it still today, and then this is the verge of knowing. The other part today, I think I call it the shallowing because of the apps. Okay, uh, apps, and this is because of my knowledge of Lance about my other company. Uh, apps, their meaning of way, maybe I'm not pronouncing it right. When the people developing apps, they want that you will be stupid,
Mm,
as stupid and less things you will do on your phone. It's better for them. They don't want
mm,
you to have to struggle 10 slides. Instead, they want you to punch one note and that's it. And I call it the stupidness of the apps. As less as you will do it, so the better for you. This is why today, for people like me, And I take it to myself. It's hard to me to go and read books
Yeah.
because I read short brief of words. Twitter is even worse. Okay,
Mm.
in 150 words, you have to sell yourself as crazy. I can't do that. It's too much for me, you know. But and this is how you have to pronounce yourself and tell people what you think or what you want to do, and it's to make you stupider and stupider,
Mhm.
you know. And
So
it's going to be signs. I believe in 10 years there will be signs. They will show your hands, and you will be Egyptian, and I'm trying to understand what they want.
it's so true. I think the
Did you hear?
breakdown of communication because of these applications and the fact that we are so conditioned to want like the punchline in an article. That's what creates these sensational articles. Like no one has time to read. That's why, by the way, like I'm such a fan of podcasts and longer form content because it does take time
Yes,
to digest, to explore ideas. Human communication is meant to be a ping pong. It's a discussion. It's throwing out a point, listening, understanding, and articulating that. And you can't do that in 140 characters or these like bite-sized little chunks.
exactly,
You need
exactly.
longer form
But
content. And thank God today that like I'm someone as well that like I take a long time to read books, and I've been able to like have content online like podcasts and maybe
yes,
I don't know what your time frame is, but the last question that I wanted to ask you, and again we can continue. I just want to be respectful of your time. Um,
no, no, it's okay. Welcome,
yeah, because this is an amazing, such an
welcome.
important conversation that we're having over here, and I would say like, what advice would you have for um, people that are just starting out in this world that is so chaotic and changing so fast, and oftentimes just a few years out of college, what you learned at school is obsolete. What advice would you give young people just starting out? And then on the flip side, what advice would you ignore?
Uh, Listen, I will tell you what one of the people most uh, difficult behavior that they have. People are have very how I say it? They are very frightful from the word to afraid. Frightful to be denied.
To be denied.
Okay, denied. Even I will take you go to the classic that you will understand what I mean. You're going to start with a girl and she denied you. Okay, because she have a boyfriend, because she don't like you, she
Mhm.
denied you. What's happened in your brain? Okay, you won't start to go to another girl that you like her, and you will be afraid to go because maybe she will deny you too. Okay, it's happened to me, it's happened to every person.
Yeah.
Same thing with entrepreneurs. When you're going to somebody, okay, and you're going to talk to him and he is denying you because he's stupid. He didn't listen to you. He don't believe in what you're doing. He don't understand your business. He will talk bullshit. And the guy is done $1 billion because he sold his company. It's not even understanding close of what you're doing. It's not saying anything. He knew something. He was succeed enough to understand in his business what he done. It's not saying anything about your venture. You may be going to be denied. Think about why he denied you. Maybe he spoke foolishness. Maybe you weren't okay and you didn't explain yourself well. Yeah, and maybe you have to work on your pitch and to explain it much better. Okay, and next time try, and it's okay. You maybe will get 50 no's, and I in my first startup I got I think maybe 100 no's,
Wow.
and it's very frustrated. It's very frustrated. Sometimes you feel you're stupid, you're foolish, you don't know what you want from yourself, and it took me a while, and until you will find the right investors for you. It's okay. This is the world, and from this people are afraid. This is if you tell me something, people are afraid to get the no. They're afraid.
Mm. Yeah.
I think this is one of the major points of people, entrepreneurs. They're afraid of the no. And it's not nice to hear no from somebody. You feel that maybe you're stupid. It's okay. It's this is normal. And the one of the things is to pull yourself, think what wasn't wrong, change the deck if you need, or change your speech or your attitude, and go on and
It's
go
very
on.
it's very fascinating what you're saying, because once you to go back to like when you had those ideas and you were like, okay, you were in your first company, once you've done the market research and you have an idea and you believe that you are with your idea, you're saying that you need to have the faith that when you get a no, it could be that you didn't present it right. It could also be that that angel investor, that VC, they don't have knowledge in your field, so they're not actually rejecting your idea. They just don't understand it, and not letting that get to you even after the 100th no. That takes strength and commitment and belief in yourself.
It's hard. It's to tell you it was easy. No, no, it wasn't easy. It was very hard. It's a long marathon in the desert, like that.
Yeah.
And but this is part of the part of the process. Sometimes you get into you have to find the correct investors that look at you and say, he can do that, you know, he can do that. And it's chemistry between you and the investor. Sometimes it's chemistry. It's not even the just the idea. It's that the investor like you, he sits with you, you can talk with him not just on the idea. You can talk with him sometimes a bit around the stuff, and to find the right way to do the business in the end together.
It's so true. Like it's a cliche, and oftentimes cliches are cliche because they're so true. But people do business with people that they are friends with. And like you mentioned that with your partner, for example, you guys were walking the dog together. Like you weren't doing business,
Yes,
you know?
yes, yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, exactly. And it's the circles that you're going around. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. People are the solution. People are the trouble, and we have to struggle with it, for the bad and for the wrong. You have to struggle with people. You know,
yeah.
it's not easy.
What's so
A lot
impressive?
of psych-
Hmm. What were you gonna say? What's so
no, I said it's a lot of psychology in the end with you and other people. How you connect with it.
so true? And you know, um, it's not only about having a good idea. From what I'm hearing you saying, it's so much so finding the right people, finding the right investors. Like you said, if you need to raise 25 million, so it's as much important to show concretely why you need that money and where that money is going, and also finding the right people with the chemistry to work with them, so that they will be available to help you, guide you through the process and whatever your idea is.
Yes, yes, yes. Exactly. Listen, my investor in my first startup wasn't a good investor. I couldn't go and I understand it, by the way, a couple of years after. I couldn't go with him to talk to him as a CEO and consult with him because I was afraid to talk to him, to look bad. Because he was, instead of working with me, he was like, you know, don't approach, just come to me, tell me what you want, what are your problems. If you have problems, let's talk about the problems, not about the good stuff, or to give you advice if you have agreements, how to do that. And by the way, it took me a couple of years to understand that he wasn't a good investor in that way. Uh, uh, anyway, so I think what's the time now? I
It's
think
one.
Yeah, I think I have another Zoom call. Sorry, business time.
Yeah,
I have like in 2 minutes. I have another one, so I want to prepare for it.
right. So let me,
Sorry that I do.
no,
Talk,
no, no, brilliant.
I will.
These
You
are
can
the kind of,
invite me again. We can talk.
yeah, I would definitely love to have you on the show again because, like, this episode, spoken about your history of companies and really how you were able to not only identify ideas and problems, but also find the right people for that. And we've spoken a little bit about mindsets and about really, it was so beautiful hearing the history, the time. Like, this has been a time capsule of like what happened in Israel in the high tech sector, and in order to really understand where we are now and take advantage of the market and really understand the fast changing trends, we need to understand what happened way back in the day and how everything was started. And that history is so, so important. And I would say,
In nice word, you said I'm old. In very very nice word, you said I'm old. It's okay.
I wouldn't say you're old, I would say you are
I'm joking. I'm joking.
experienced. Um,
You know
yeah,
what's the meaning of the word experience? You
right.
know what's the
Yeah,
meaning of the word experience? I learned from the mistakes I done. Hopefully,
yeah.
you know.
And the idea on this podcast is that hopefully, people listen to long form content like this and they understand, oh, yeah, actually, that's the right kind of mindset to think about it. Oh, yeah, I should be open to sharing my ideas. Oh, yeah, I should be open to potential collaborations. Um, oh, yeah, this is how I should do it. And this is the right way to think about it. Oh, yeah, I shouldn't like be afraid of the 100th rejection. I know it's going to be hard. And so just hearing you be so honest and brutal about what life is like in the high tech scene, being an entrepreneur, was really beautiful. And I would say if you have any comments as listeners, if you have any tips, uh, please don't hesitate to write them in the comments. And then finally, Eitan, can people connect with you through LinkedIn? Um, what's the best way for
They
people?
can connect, they can connect me through LinkedIn. You can put my mail on
Perfect.
the podcast.
Thank you so much, Eitan, for this beautiful episode. And
Thank you, Jason. I enjoyed.
yeah,
Really, thank you. I really enjoy it. Let's do a rerun. Let's do again. I will be happy
yes,
to
I'm
talk
happy to
again.
discuss all. Like, I have so much topics I'd love to discuss with you. Let's pause here.